Hi everyone, my name is Marion Grace. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you've been looking at any of the videos at all, you know I talk about overcoming cancer and just how it affects your life, and a lot about overcoming and recovering and being your own best advocate. Today I want to talk about a topic that is very difficult but near and dear to my heart, because if you're going through anything serious like that, or if you've dealt with illness for a really long time, sometimes it gets to the point where you just don't feel like you anymore. You've lost a lot of who you were. You've lost maybe some abilities, maybe a lot of abilities, like I did. You've lost some of your personality. You've lost some of your joy or your zip or just who you used to be. And that was me. I was sick for a very long time. It's in year 6 now. And after I had my bone marrow transplant, it was pretty brutal. And I went through a lot of pain, a lot of mental anguish, a lot of trials, where it got to the point where I didn't feel like I was me anymore. I wondered, who am I now? What can I do? What is my worth? Am I ever going to be even a fraction of who I was before? And that's pretty scary, and it can be pretty depressing. And I did get very depressed. As you know, I talk about a lot about getting through this with my relationship with God, and you know, as a lot of you can tell, I have gotten through it very well. God's been so good to me, and He's carried me. But I just want to share with you the reality of when you don't feel like you anymore and what you can do about it, because there is recovery and there is life after disease. So as you know, like when you first start, it's a whirlwind. When I was first diagnosed, you know, just tests and consultations and being probed and prodded, and there's so much, and you've got so much on your mind. It's just a whirlwind. You don't really have time to think. But then you settle down after a while, and you begin to really take a look at what's going on and how it's affecting you. And I still remember one day when I just looked in the mirror and I didn't see me anymore. I saw a very sick, a very altered, a very different a woman who was just dependent on everybody for everything. And I sincerely mean everything. And I felt helpless and I felt humiliated. And not only that, I mean, that's hard enough, but then you kind of get all these thoughts bombarding you, you know, these negative, terrible thoughts that kind of yak at you, that, you know, you feel that others are disappointed in you because you can't do the things you did anymore. Maybe you're not as much fun as you were anymore. And you can feel that others are disappointed or resentful towards you. You know, and you might feel like sometimes your friends avoid you, or you know, you feel like it. It might not be, but you feel like it. And then all kinds of thoughts start, you know, do they not care? You know, do they just think I'm no fun, or I'm a downer, you know, and these nag you. And that unfortunately sends you into a more of a spiral. And they can overwhelm you and lead you into depression, which they did for me. And then, of course, throw into that, because of the drugs, the brain fog. And then you feel like you've become stupid. And maybe some of you can relate to that. I mean, I felt like that. I had a time when I was out with my friends, and because of the brain fog and the drugs and everything, I said something that didn't make any sense to the waiter, and everybody started to laugh. And I felt so awful. I ran to the bathroom and just cried. And probably nobody meant anything, but that's the state you're in. You know, that's where your thoughts and your feelings can go, because you're so frustrated and you feel like you're just not you anymore. You know, I couldn't do any of the activities. My husband and I used to be out all the time, kayaking, hiking, swimming. I mean, I was an outdoor person, and then all of a sudden I couldn't do anything. And, you know, whether the thoughts are real or imagined, I felt like, he was frustrated and disappointed in me. And it's a downward spiral of those feelings. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate. And you're not sure, is it ever going to get any better? But, I guarantee you it can get better. I actually found that this horrible time, once I got through it, was an actual stepping stone to becoming the best me that I could have ever imagined. And I give all the credit to God because, he carried me. I had to turn it all over to him because I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't handle any of it. I just said, God, I give it all to you. And he literally took all those ashes and turned it beautiful. Because, and I'm going to read something from an article I wrote. So because of these experiences, I began to journal how I was feeling, what God was doing for me, what he was teaching me, and how I was improving every day. And this actually turned into 2 published books that I wrote to help people overcome trials, where I shared everything God has taught me. And because of what he's taught me, I feel like I have a new and broader relatability, scope of empathy for people when I minister to them, whereas I never really had that before. I have a lot more compassion and connection with other people. And I really believe that those who go through hard times, they make the best ministers, they make the best counselors, because they're empathetic. They've been there, there's no theory. They've been there, they understand. So that was a real amazing thing for me. And I want to encourage you to prayerfully seek God about the hidden layers in you. I feel like a lot of my layers were torn off, but underneath were new layers, like things that have always been in me that were hidden, but were just as much a part of me. Now that all the layers I were familiar with were all torn off, all these new layers came up, new abilities, new talents, new gifts. And now I can be me, but a little bit of a different me, but an amazing me that is more real and more empathetic and more relatable. And I think that's awesome. And, I'm thankful. I'm being thankful in it, not for it, but in it. And I'm thankful every day for things that I can do and things that are coming back. Because, I figured out a few things, and adjusting medications and knowing how to exercise and eat properly and what is good for me and what's not. And, talking to the doctors and naturopaths to find out, do I really need this much drug? Can we, adjust here? And I always go with my gut. And things are improving. And now I'm finding new abilities and new ways. And it's almost like I feel like I'm a better me. So that was a real positive thing. And I encourage you to do the same thing. Like, look inside. Different is not inferior. Different is not inferior. And the whisper of inadequate that nags at you, you're inadequate, you're not good enough, that's a lie. That is not true. A good place to begin to find a new purpose, I found, is to start to give back. Start trying things that you never thought of before, or maybe you were too afraid to try. Can you paint? Can you draw? Can you write poetry? Perhaps you could speak in a support group that is going through the same things you are and be an encouragement to other people. That's a big uplifter there, just making an impact on other people. And you can do it, just maybe sharing with others anything positive that works. That'll give you a really good start. You could maybe start a blog to share these things. You could volunteer, maybe in a charity that has something to do with your issues. Do you do crafts and express yourself? Artistic expression really helps bring back the you that you might have lost. You could start sharing your testimony if you go to a church. If you're a writer, maybe write devotionals that will help people going through hard times. You could join a prayer or a Bible study group and encourage other people. And it will also encourage you. A simpler way may be to just join a class, something you've always been interested in, maybe something musical or artistic. You could learn a new language for that dream trip and then maybe go on that dream trip. I couldn't travel for a while, but after a while, it's like, I think I can do this. So last May, I went to France and I learned a little bit of French, and it was wonderful. You could start small and work your way up to that. You may uncover talents and gifts that were hidden in those deeper layers, and you didn't even know about them until these things happened to you. Consider it the new layers of you and the new you. It can be a wonderful thing to look at it through God's eyes. I'm not saying it's always easy, because it isn't, and it hasn't always been easy. I have so many frustrating days. I still try to do things that I used to be able to do, and I hurt myself. I went on a 20K bike ride a couple of weeks ago, and I crashed my bike. Lost control of it, crashed into a boulder, and fell on another boulder. I probably shouldn't have attempted the 20K ride, but you know what? I was okay, and it felt good to do it. I tend to be a little bit of an overachiever sometimes, but you can start small with some little things. As much as I've learned, I still have a stubborn streak because I used to be called Tigger, Tigger, bouncy, 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 bouncy. I'm not quite Tigger anymore. Now I would consider myself a cross between Kanga and Wise Old Owl, because I've learned a lot, and, I feel like I can share, and, Kanga, the mom, takes care of people, and Wise Old Owl, and I'm trying to get a little bit of that Tigger back, but at least I didn't turn into Eeyore or Piglet, and I encourage you not to as well. Don't let it get you down. Try things, anything, just something you might be good at. Even if you're not good at it, try it, and if it doesn't work out, try something else. There are things you can do. You have value. You have something to share. You can help other people, and that really will make you feel better. And thankfulness for anything. If you couldn't lift your arm, and then all of a sudden you can lift your arm, that's something to be thankful for and something to work on. And those positive feelings and those positive attitudes and that positive thankfulness will really do a lot to lead you to the next step. We need to focus on our strengths. And I do that, and I walk closely with God and listen to Him, because other people's views and expectations, they can be disheartening, but they don't matter. Only what you think of yourself. And I always encourage people who know God, He's the lifter of your head. He's the one who gives you purpose and value. He wasn't surprised by what happened to me. He didn't cause it, but He wasn't surprised by it. He knew it was going to happen, and he turned it around to make life beautiful, and He will do that for you too. And when the dust clears, you may almost be thankful because of who you've become. And I encourage you just to embrace a new season. The old you doesn't have to be the only you. So I encourage you, look for that new purpose. Look for those new layers. God bless. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.